You and I need to talk. You need to learn how to write code. I'm not saying that you should become a programmer and learn the latest, greatest programming languages and write the next great app, fix an app that you can't stand using because of one big bug, or even become some sort of special data analyst that can look at all the data available in the world and come up with some specific analysis that answers all the world's problems. That's not what I'm saying here. But you do need to learn how to write code. I don't care what profession you're in or what you want to do when you get out of school. Doesn't matter to me. The process of learning how to write code will make you a better planner, it'll make you a better communicator, and it'll teach you how to work as a team with pieces that already exist out there in the world. You don't need to be a programmer, but you do need to write code. Not only that, but most desk-based jobs have some element, albeit very small, that requires some sort of handling data and writing code to understand what that data means. The problem is that every single course out there on writing code is trying to turn you into a programmer. That is not my objective with this course. I want you to learn to write code in a language and then take that and use it in whatever language is most appropriate for the field of study that you're in or that you already work. I'm going to start with the assumption that you know nothing about coding other than how to open up a computer and start a YouTube video. What I'm going to focus on are a series of very personal one-off projects that will get you into the frame of mind you need to write adequate code. Not perfect code, not the next greatest app, adequate code for personal use. I'm going to talk about data, both getting it and using it, and how you can logically use it to solve some of your personal issues in your professional life. In the end, you'll be able to write enough code to create personal programs and get by in whatever profession you happen to be in. And if you find it interesting enough, you may go forward and decide that you actually want to learn a little more about how to write applications and proper programming. Since these are lessons, I have 2 rules I'm going to ask from you. The first rule is that you actually participate, that you actually follow along with the lessons instead of just watching the videos and assume you're going to learn by osmosis. Second, I don't want you to think that this is a learn this programming language in 24 hours course. That's not the point here. Most of those courses aren't worth it unless you're already into knowing how to program. Here, we're going to actually go through the process bit by bit, and then eventually, when you decide or you're told what language you need to use, you can apply those to whatever language you happen to be using out in the field. If you do that, I'll make a promise in return. I'll keep the lessons short and concise and try to keep the content of these videos focused and applicable to our goals. That is, learning how to write personal programs to solve very specific issues. Okay, so where do we start? Well, we start with the world. Before we conquer the world, we should actually talk about the tools we have at our disposal. Our main tool is the computer, specifically desktop or laptop computer that you have. Now, the core of this computer is the processor. That has, at last count, 2 to 10 billion transistors. These are essentially just on-off switches that do everything that our internet-connected society uses today. That's a lot of power to control. So we need some way to simplify that. What you have is the operating system. This is the core software that your entire desktop works off of. There are 5 flavors of operating system. 2 on your phones. If you have an iPhone, then you're running iOS. Anything else, and you're running Android. On the desktop, you have 3 different options. Mac OS, which is Apple's version of the operating system. Windows, which most everyone uses, and then Linux, which is more of a server-based operating system that you may have heard of recently as people try to get off of Windows. But all of these operating systems have one tool that we can use to operate on the in the back rooms of the computer, and that is the command line. So let's go over to the desktop and actually look at our options on each of those operating systems. Okay, so now we're at the desktop. We're on a fresh Windows desktop here. And to get to the command line, we're going to hit the Windows button here, type in CMD, and that's going to show us the command prompt application. We'll just click it, and this is the Windows command prompt. If we were going into Mac, we would find the terminal application and then open it from there. And if you're in Linux, you already know how to open the terminal because that's key to using Linux. Once there, all we get is a prompt waiting for our input. There's no guidance or anything like that. We have to actually know what we want. So let's start off with a simple dir. That's in Windows. And that just gives us a listing of the directory's contents. Every command system has this. In the terminal, the command is ls instead of dir, but it does the same thing. Now let's try dir goes into test.txt. Okay, no output there. However, we can go ahead here and to users demo. And now we see that we have this test file here. We open it up and we can see we've got the contents. We've actually, in the command prompt, we've actually done two different commands in a row. The directory command and then an output command with a file name after that. And that's what that means. Everything you do in the computer is based on issuing a series of commands. In this case, show me the directory, followed by write it to test.txt. The command prompt, though, really only excels at doing one command at a time. A programming language specializes in doing commands in series, which is what we're going to look at next. So we have several options when it comes to programming languages, almost an infinite number. But what we're going to do is we're going to work with a programming language called C#. Now, why am I doing this? We'll get into details on that later once we've gone through a couple of basic lessons, because you may have friends that say, well, why would you learn that? I'll explain later why we've chosen this particular language for this specific set of lessons. So C# is a Microsoft product, but it is open source, and it can run on any system you want, any operating system. Mac OS, Windows, obviously, and Linux. However, the default way to run C# is in Windows, so we have to have a cross-platform way to run it. What we're going to use is a tool called JetBrains Writer. JetBrains is a well-known company that creates systems that allow programmers to do development, and they kind of sit outside the normal Microsoft and Google kind of complex. So we just need a Google search for JetBrains Writer. I've already pulled it up here. This will bring the main page up, and then we can just hit download here. This is a free download for anybody who's learning or who's working on open source software. Yes, if you get into the commercial side of things, then you may have to look at a license, but that's really true for most development tools. So here we've got a download link, Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. We're going to use Windows here, and we'll go ahead and take the exe. So just hit download, and we'll wait for that to finish. Once that's done, we can come up into our browser, find the folder it's located in, and just run the installer. Again, this is a fresh copy of Windows, so this is what you would see if you were doing it yourself. I'll go ahead and create a shortcut on the desktop for this work. And we're going to go ahead and create associations for all these files. These are essentially the core files that Writer is going to create. Now there is another way to do this through a tool called Visual Studio Code. That's also cross-platform, but it involves a few more steps to set up. It is a lot more flexible though. I'll create a short and I'll link it below in the description that takes you through how to set it up that way. Once you've set it up though, this process is generally the same, no matter if you're using Visual Studio Code or if you're using JetBrains Writer. I should note that I'm doing this on a virtual machine, so it's going to be slower than on your own hardware. Now that we're at the end of the installer, we can go ahead and run JetBrains Writer. So just leave that checked and hit finish. Yes, we agree to everything. We don't want to send data. And we want to allow it to run. Now we are going to get a choice of theme here. I'm going to choose Visual Studio, just because that's what I'm used to. And I'm going to use the VS Code shortcuts because those are the easiest. There's not a whole lot of Control, Shift, Alt kind of stuff here. Hit continue. No plugins needed for now. And finally, we get to creating a new solution in JetBrains. Okay, finally, we can go ahead and create a project. So we're going to go ahead and hit New Solution here. And we are going to use a console. In other words, this is just going to be something that works on the command line. We're going to call it Hello World. We're going to use one word here that's pretty typical for programming projects. And we want this to be .NET 10. We'll explain that later. We're going to choose the SDK 10.0. This will allow us to install the framework. This is a thing you have to do the first time you do this. After that, it'll be installed for every project you use. So we just sit here, twiddle our thumbs while Writer downloads it. We're going to choose C#, and we're going to check the do not use top-level statements. Go ahead and load it up. And we're going to go ahead and erase this line for a moment because it's already given us the one piece of code we need for our system. So on the left-hand side, this is the list of files. These are just text files that are part of our project. We only care about one thing for now, and that's the program.cs. That's actually where the code goes. These dependencies and these couple of other top-level files, we don't care about. So in our program, we're just going to go ahead and type in console.writeLine double quotes, and you see it puts an extra double quote in there. Hello world. That's all we've done. Now we come up here and tell the system to go ahead and run it. We give it a moment. You'll see a note here that says build succeeded. We'll get into what that actually means. But you'll also see right here, we've got our hello world. We have successfully written our first program. Let's extend it just a little. So again, we're going to add another command, another console.writeLine. This is a and all we've done here is basically said, execute this first line, which is output hello world, and then execute this second line, which is, hey, this is a second line. Let's test it by running it. Give it a moment. You see it's a lot faster this time. The first time you run it, it's going to do a lot of background things. After that, it usually does a pretty good job of running fast. And we'll see here, hello world, and this is the second line. Congratulations, you've just wrote a program. Join me next time when we talk about variables and start to write our first actually useful program. Until then, keep coding, and we'll see you soon.